Welcome to another edition of Arizona Wildcats Insiders Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Hutchison. And today I want to talk a little bit about the NBA and the Wildcats in the NBA that have made a giant impact. Right now, if you look at the NBA, the main guys, if you're just going off the top of your head, Aaron Gordon won a championship with the Denver Nuggets, was a massive part of that championship team. Has done a phenomenal job there, Orlando, and now this past season with the Denver Nuggets as well. Lauri Markkanen, kind of a slow start to his career. Chicago and other stops didn't work out too much, but then found a home in Utah and has become an NBA All-Star and one of the best stretch forwards in this game. Kind of like a modern-day Dirk Nowitzki in terms of skill set and three-point ability. Lauri Markkanen has turned himself into one of the better players in the league and the best player on the Utah Jazz, which isn't even a conversation, to be honest. TJ McConnell, you just saw what he did in the NBA Finals, helping get the Pacers to the NBA Finals. Terrific run he's had in the NBA, long career. Nobody kind of saw that coming if you really didn't know much about TJ McConnell, going undrafted, signing with the Philadelphia 76ers, and then ended up in Indiana. But to me, it was no surprise. TJ McConnell's a proven leader. He's a winner. He's a gamer, and he's a guy that does all the little things out there on the court. And when you have a guy like that with a massive heart, you're going to last a long time in the NBA if you're able to be a gel guy on a team. And that's what TJ McConnell is a terrific backup point guard. And then Ben Mathurin, another guy that just finished an NBA final season with the Indiana Pacers. Year one, he got off to a fast start, then kind of slowed down a little bit in Indiana, and now looks pretty good as a bench player as a role player off the bench. Had a terrific NBA Finals. Had one bad game in the NBA Finals, but overall, when you're scoring 27 points in an NBA Finals game, you're making a massive impact. So those are just some of the cats that are making massive impacts in the NBA. Obviously, DeAndre Ayton is going to the Los Angeles Lakers, and there's other NBA players as well from Arizona. The list goes on and on. It's a proud tradition for Arizona. And now they welcome Carter Bryant into the league, who was the number 14th overall pick. You have Pelle Larsson, Keshad Johnson that are working out in the summer league and trying to find their way and stabilize themselves in this league. Caleb Love goes undrafted but signs a two-way contract with the Portland Trailblazers, so you'll be seeing him in spurts throughout the season. The list goes on and on. Christian Koloko as well, Dalen Terry. It's a proud tradition for Arizona, and it goes back a very long time. Obviously, it goes back before this player, but another player back in the day that made a massive impact was Bob Elliott, Big Bird Bob. One of the best players in U of A history, in my opinion, probably the third best player in Arizona basketball history. Cannot say enough about the massive impact he had in the league, not only as a player, but then being in charge of the Players Association. He did that kind of stuff, played in the ABA, in the NBA as well, and just a terrific legacy guy for Arizona that's had a lot to do with NBA history and has had his hands in the NBA, whether it be on the court or off the court. Bob Elliott has had a massive impact as well. But I want to talk about the best four Wildcats to ever play in the NBA. Again, it's a long list of players. There's massive players that have had huge impacts for a long, extended time. There's players that have had a couple years stints where they looked the part and then they kind of fizzled out. There's players that got off to a hot start, but injuries derailed their career. So it's an interesting list. It's a long list, but to talk about. But, I want to talk about the four best. But let's start it off with one player that didn't make the cut, that if it was more than a 3-year span of being elite, and when I say elite, he was one of the best point guards in the league for 3 years. He was in the MVP conversation. He led a dysfunctional organization in the Washington Wizards to the playoffs as a number 6 seed. I don't think he ever got past the second round, but one of the better point guards and one of the better pure shooters in the NBA during his time was Gilbert Arenas. Gilbert Arenas was averaging 30-plus points a game 2 years in the league. In the third year, I think he averaged around 26, 27. So, this guy was a high-volume scorer and an efficient scorer. It wasn't like others that are taking 16 shots to get to, 18 shots to get to your 22 points. No, he was dropping 30 pieces, 40 pieces, even 50 pieces on 20-plus shots. I remember one game, the Phoenix Suns faced off against the Wizards in a triple overtime thriller, and I believe Gilbert Arenas finished with 56 points in that game, shot like 7 3-point shots. Steve Nash kind of matched him with his 42 points, and the Suns won in triple overtime. But it was one of those games that just drew you in and made you an NBA fan if you're a young kid. That was one of those games, and that's because Gilbert Arenas was the man. Agent Zero was one of the best players in the league at his time. And if things could have gone in the right direction for him, you'd be looking at a guy that 100% would be in the Basketball Hall of Fame. He was one of those types of dudes. Things kind of fell apart, but an absolute monster on the court in his prime. So he didn't make the list. So who does make that list? I think you got to start off with one player in Richard Jefferson. Richard Jefferson is one of those guys that kind of goes under the radar because he was a terrific role player for the Cleveland Cavaliers when they won a title. He was a solid player for the San Antonio Spurs, helping them get to the NBA Finals, I believe, and at least get to the Western Conference Finals in the Greg Popovich era. But I want to talk when he was a New Jersey Net. I mean, they got to the NBA Finals. Richard Jefferson was the man. He was a dog out there on the court, averaging 20-plus points. He was one of those high flyers, one of those guys that if he was going up for a jam, he was going to finish it. Just a terrific athlete, one of the better athletes Arizona's ever had. And he was on the court at the same time in New Jersey with Jason Kidd and Vince Carter. So he kind of got overshadowed, but that was a three-headed monster. You know, RJ was part of a big three, and he was one of those big three guys. And you can't say that you can't say that with a lot of Arizona players that they've ever been a part and were a part of the big three, like, you know, DeAndre Ayton in Phoenix. It was close, but him and Mikal Bridges kind of shared it. But Chris Paul and Devin Booker were 1 and 2. There's no question RJ was the third, and RJ was part of that big three. And just a terrific athlete. So for me, he is number 4 on the list. Number 3, I'm going to go with a guy in Mike Bibby. I think Bibby has an overlooked NBA career. He had a lot of success with the Sacramento Kings. He had a lot of success throughout his career as a true lead point guard. Just a terrific guy that was just a steady force at the point guard position. Kind of got overshadowed at times and played a long career in the NBA. But Mike Bibby was an absolute stud for the Kings. So for me, he is on that list. Just a true point guard and probably the second best point guard in U of A history behind Damon Stoudemire. So for me, he is number 3 on that list. Number 2, I got to go Jason Terry, his running mate. You know, you look at that 1997 team, Michael Dickerson made the NBA. Jason Terry made the NBA. Mike Bibby made the NBA. Miles Simon had his injury issues. But you had studs on that team. And the guy coming off the bench was Jason Terry. And oddly enough, that was kind of his role in the NBA. He was that 6th man off the bench, but an elite scorer off the bench, a huge glue guy, team guy, a guy that was more of a shooting guard but could run the point guard position when you needed him to, and just a straight gamer. When the game was on the line, Jason Terry was going to hit a shot. Jason Terry was going to be there and be part of the solution for your team. You look at that shot over LeBron James in the NBA Finals, really just putting the nail in the coffin against a daunting Miami Heat team that were saying they weren't going to win 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 titles. They're talking about 8 titles when they all signed there. And in their first NBA Finals, here comes the Dallas Mavericks with Dirk Nowitzki, Jason Kidd, and Jason Terry. And it's Jason Terry that put in the dagger in one of those games. So for me, he is number 2 on that list. And then number 1, again, it's hard not to have Sean Elliott on this list. I have Sean Elliott at number 5. So for those who are saying, well, what about Sean Elliott? Sean Elliott's very close. But I think these 4 players are just a step above, even though Sean Elliott has a championship, even though Sean Elliott has been a 3-time All-Star and had a 11 to 12-year NBA career and a terrific career. Sean is right there, but he doesn't pass these guys. So number 1, without further ado, is Andre Iguodala. I think he is one of the most underrated players in U of A history, and I think he's one of the most underrated players in the NBA. He was a stud for the 76ers. After AI left, he became the man in Philly and helped lead a team to the playoffs a couple of times. I mean, they were undermanned, undersized at times, but a terrific go-to guy for the 76ers. He got traded to the Denver Nuggets or signed with the Denver Nuggets and helped the Denver Nuggets get to the second round of the NBA playoffs where they lost to the Warriors. But you saw in that series, Andre Iguodala be the man. He was averaging 20-plus points. He was the go-to guy. He was all over the court defending, and he's one of the better defensive players in NBA history. I think he is the best defensive player at the NBA level out of Arizona. I don't think there's anybody better than Andre Iguodala when it comes to defense in the NBA. I think he is the absolute best. And then you look what he did in the finals against the Cavaliers for the Warriors. You won an NBA Finals MVP, and he 100% deserved that. Averaged over 20-plus points per game. Held LeBron to 34% shooting when he was defending him. I know LeBron averaged 40 in that NBA Finals, but nobody else was going to score. Everybody else was hurt. And when Iggy was guarding him, LeBron did not score. Iggy had his way with LeBron. He was very dominant against LeBron James. He won an NBA Finals MVP, and he 100% deserved it. And then he went on to win multiple championships with the Warriors. And if it wasn't for a chase down block where he probably should have slammed it instead of trying to lay it in, he would have another championship. I think Iguodala is without a doubt a Hall of Fame player, and I think he has had the best career in the history of Arizona at the NBA level. We'll see you next time.